In this video, we'll take a look together at how we can download a couple of files from Thingiverse and combine them together and, and get the sculpture all ready for 3D printing. So Thingiverse is a website where you can go to download 3D files that you could directly send out to a 3D printer if it's exactly what you're looking for, or you can make modifications to the files. And so the couple of files I thought would be interesting to work with for this demonstration are this bust of Yuri Gagarin and this parrot. And so what we're going to do is get rid of Yuri's head and replace it with this parrot head. And so let's go back to our files. I'll show you how we can download them. You could just download all the files, but we really only need the bust, so we can just click on that. And for the parrot, we can go here to where it says parrot STL and download that. And let's start a new project. So I'll go to File. We always have to start with something here. So I'm just going to go to Import, and we will replace. And let's replace it with the bust. Okay, so here's Yuri. And the first thing we could do, if we want to just check for errors, is we could open Analysis and go to Inspector. And you can see that we don't have any problems showing up here. If there were a hole in the mesh, we would see like a little flag pop up. I'll just show you. So let's select that. I just pressed S and then used the selection brush to select. I'll press Delete to get rid of those faces. And now if we go to Analysis, Inspector, you'll see that we get this blue kind of pin that comes out of the back. Now, it's telling us that this is a problem because you need for the 3D print file to be watertight. It needs to be closed up. So what we could do is just click on Auto Repair All, and that will fill in the hole for us. Okay, so now let's get rid of his face. And so we can do that by going to Mesh Mix. We just have some primitives here that we can drag in. So I'm going to just drag this sphere in, and I'm going to drop it on his nose. And we want to scale this up, so I'm going to go to Dimension and just make this a bit bigger. I think even a bit bigger than that is what we'll need. Yeah, okay. And under Composition mode, yeah, let's create new object. Now, you see that one object is light and one is dark. If we go to View and Show Objects Browser, this is sort of like if you've ever worked in Photoshop, the layers that you have in Photoshop. So each of these meshes is on a different kind of layer in the object browser. And now to move the sphere, I'm going to press T for transpose. And now I can use the handles on this widget. It's snapping right now. We don't want it to do that. Let's turn snapping off by pressing S. And we'll move this over. And actually, I don't like the way that the widget is all cattywampus like that. Let's press W to set it so that instead of being oriented to the local space, it's going to be oriented to the world space. And we'll drag it over with that little red handle, and let's move it back in space some to recess it into the helmet some. And that looks good. So what we'll do now is we'll use a Boolean Boolean difference command to trim out that spherical hole there. So what I'm going to do is let me start over. I'll click on the parent object, and then I'll click on the thing that I want to use as the cutting tool while holding Shift, and then we'll go in the context menu to Boolean difference. Okay, and let's accept that. Oh no. Let's see. Now sometimes these things fail just because let's see. Just because of like an alignment of two vertices we can get things failing sometimes. Let's see if just moving that over a little bit will let the command work. And, oh, I see. Actually, you can see on the front, it looks like that's the problem spot. I might have to just move it back a little bit. Yeah, it's going to do it again. Let's try it again. So I'll press T. Let's move it back away from that problem spot there, and then we'll accept it. I'll click on the parent object, and then hold Shift and click on the other object, and then we'll go to Boolean difference. There we go. And we'll accept that. And now, yeah, that looks fine. Let's go ahead and bring in the parrot. We'll go to import, and we want to append, not replace. We'll use the parrot. Okay. This would be a good time to save, just in case we get a crash. So we'll go to Save As, and we'll just call this example 1. And this is going to save in Mesh Mixer format, which will save our layers in the object browser and stuff like that. Okay. And now the parrot's in the scene, but it's too big. So let's use the transpose tool. And I want to scale it down. I'm going to grab that little box that is at the center of the widget, and we'll make this smaller. Let's move it down. And let's rotate it. And we'll move it back in space. Yeah, I think that looks fine as a quick example. Let's accept that. And now we need to trim away the extra part of the parrot that we don't need. So we'll go to Edit and Plane Cut. And then we have to change the orientation of that plane to be more like this. Let's move that up, and then we'll accept it. Okay, and now at this point, we have two overlapping forms. What we want is to have a single continuous solid form. So let me actually just press Control V so that you can see what I mean. So by pressing Control V, I toggled the visibility of that parrot, and you can see how it overlaps with the other form. We really want for the overlapped surfaces to be trimmed away. So we can do that by clicking on one object, holding Shift and clicking on the other, and then we'll go to Boolean Union, and we'll accept that. And now, when we look in the object browser, we see that we only have one layer. And if we press Control V to kind of turn this into a ghosted mode, we can now see that the overlapping parts of the geometry have been eliminated. And so now we do have one final problem here, which is a couple of errors. You can tell those little red dots are indicating that there are problems. So let's go to Analysis, Inspector, and the red pins confirm that there are some problems there. So let's auto repair all, and that should have just fixed the issue. And so now we can send this out to be printed. And before we do, let's check one thing. Under Analysis, let's go to Units and Dimensions, and let's check the size of the part. So this is in millimeters, and I think 53 millimeters wide is a reasonable size for a 3D print, but I'll just show you how you can change it if you'd like. We'll set that to 50 and press Enter. And you can see how that updated here. So now that we have checked for errors and we've sized our part appropriately, we can export this. So we'll go to Export, and we'll call it example 1. And it's going to save as an OBJ file by default on my computer. It might not pop up that way for you as a default. You could also use an STL format instead of OBJ. Either will work just fine. So that's a very quick introduction to how you can take a couple of files that you've downloaded from Thingiverse and put them together in preparation for 3D printing. Again, if you'd like to learn more about how to use Mesh Mixer, I've provided links to the manual I wrote for the program, and to 10 short videos that you might find useful. You can find those links on the BFAB website.